Thanks everyone for joining. This is Clark Osvog with Regenesis Property Management. Clark is giving a presentation today, and yeah, I'm sure you guys will see a lot of value in this. So take it away, Clark.
All right. Well, thank you, Isaac. Yeah. So welcome to you guys here and to everybody online. Hope you guys do get some important information from this. So we're going to be talking about what a pro forma is today. I like to have this be a little interactive. So of you guys here, I already talked to you, Isaac, so you don't get to volunteer information. But for you guys, what is a pro forma? Do you guys know? What is it used for? What does it do? No? Okay. Well, we got a lot to learn then. That's a great way to start.
Just really quick, can you guys all hear Clark? Thumbs up.
Yes, we can. I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, carry on, Clark.
All right, I'm carrying on. Okay, so my name's Clark. I own Regenesis Property Management. We are located in Puyallup. We've been there for about a year and some change now. We are a residential property management company, so we can do everything from single family houses all the way up to multifamily apartment buildings. So like to give that little plug if you guys have any interest in learning some more about our fees or services. We do everything from short-term rental Airbnb style all the way up to long-term regular style apartment or rental properties. So if you got anything on that, let me know. But I'm also an investor myself. I have about 30 apartments that I personally own. And every time I look at buying another property, this is kind of the process that I go through when I consider if it's going to be a valuable deal or not. So what is a pro forma and why is it important?
Clark, while you're doing that, I just want to say for everybody, the reason I was excited about this this presentation, even if you're not looking to get investing yourself, this is an avenue that if you're educated on pro formas and how to analyze a property like this, that is a great tool that you can provide to clients who want to get into real estate investing. So you can add that to your repertoire. So anyways, I just wanted to explain that's the goal of this, right? Like none of us are property managers. I don't think any of us plan on becoming property managers. That's not the point. The point of this is so that you're able to analyze properties that could be rental properties for your clients and offer that as a service. So.
Right. And typically an investor client is going to be a repeat customer. So if you can do right by them on the first go, they're going to be more inclined to come back and do more business with you guys in the future.
Absolutely.
All right. So the basic Webster's definition of a pro forma is it's a report that gathers current and or estimated income and expense data to project the NOI, net operating income, and cash flow of a property. And then NOI, net operating income, is the income a property makes after all expenses have been paid. We'll go into a bunch of definitions here in just a second, so we'll get into that right now. So NOI, net operating income, your cap rate is your, it stands for your capitalization rate, which is a rate of return that's expected to be generated. Your GRM is your gross rent multiplier. And that's the way to quickly calculate a property's profitability compared to similar properties in the same real estate market. Your DCR is debt coverage ratio. That's a number that looks at a property's income compared to its debt obligations. And then your cash on cash return, it's one of the most important real estate numbers or calculations. And it's the property's annual net cash flow divided by your net investment. So we're going to go into examples on all of these now. So to figure out what an NOI is, we're going to use the example that you bought a property. It has a 10% vacancy loss and it's earning $2,000 a month in operating expenses. So your total annual income is $126,000. So you've got $120,000 rental and then $6,000 from additional income. Then you're going to subtract your total expenses. So in this example, it's $36,000. So you've got $12,000 for your vacancy loss, and then your net operating or your operating expenses is $24,000. So that equals your NOI of $90,000. That makes sense to everybody?
Absolutely.
Okay. Next, we'll go into cap rate. So cap rate is just your NOI, net operating income, divided by your total purchase price on the property. So in this example, if you had $100,000 NOI and say you bought the property for $1 million, that would give you a 10% cap rate. Right now, just to give you kind of an idea, properties in the Seattle market are selling at like a sub 4 cap rate. So, you know, anything, my rule of thumb is if it's a 6 or better, 6% or better, that's a great deal. The market right now is forcing people a lot lower than that. All right, so gross rent multiplier. This is what the property price divided by the gross rental income. So if you bought a property for 2 million, your gross rent income is 320,000. So divide 2 million by 320. That gives you a 6.25. So this specific formula or number, this you're going to want to look at the total area and look at other properties in a similar area to determine if this is a good deal or not. So you want a lower GRM compared to what else is in the surrounding area. So if you, in this example, if other properties in the area had GRMs of 8 or 9, then the 6.25 would be could be a profitable deal. All right, debt coverage ratio. So this is exactly what it says, debt coverage ratio. So how much debt is being covered. So if you have a $20,000 NOI and you divide that by your total annual debt payment of, so let's say your total mortgage for the year is $15,000, that would give you a 1.33 debt coverage ratio. Typically, lenders are going to want to see at least a 1.2 or better for them to be able to feel comfortable loaning on that property. And so basically all that means is that every month your mortgage is paying for that full month's mortgage plus a third of the next month.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
So like in residential, we know about debt to income for residential lending when it comes to buying a personal residence, right? They have to have, depending on the type of loan, VA, FHA, or conventional, and depending on the credit score and so on, somewhere around 45% is the max payment somebody can have for their mortgage based off of their income, meaning income times 0.45 minus debt is, yeah, I did that right. Minus debt is the max payment a buyer can qualify for. Now, when it comes to an investment property, what Clark is alluding to there is they don't analyze you, the person, as much as they analyze the deal. And so what he's saying is the deal has to make sense because it's like they're loaning to a business as opposed to loaning to an individual. So they're looking for debt coverage ratio to be no more than 1.2. That's kind of comparable to when a lender is looking for a payment no more than 45% after debt. So anyways, I just want to tie that into kind of what we know and understand in residential lending.
Yep, exactly. All right, next is cash on cash return. I know I'm kind of cruising through these definitions fairly quickly, but these are all the elements of what a pro forma is. So I just wanted to give a brief explanation of what they are, and then we can look at how they play into an actual real life pro forma here in just a minute. So cash on cash return, this is looking at how much cash you put into a property. If you put in X dollars into a property, how quickly are you going to get that property back in a percentage figure? So for this example, if you put in $10,000, I'm sorry, if you get $10,000 of income and you've put in $100,000 for expenses, you're getting a 10% return on your money.
Yep, and that 10,000 is annual income as opposed to monthly.
Right. All right, so ROI is what?
Return on investment.
There you go. Yep. ROI is used to measure the overall rate of return on a property, including debt and cash. How much money or profit is made on an investment as a percentage of the cost of that investment. So the difference between ROI and cash on cash return is that ROI looks at the debt as well as the cash flow, whereas cash on cash return only measures the return on the actual cash invested. All right, so kind of another breakdown of ROI, return on investment, measure how much money or profit is made on an investment as a percentage of its cost. So this is a little bit of a longer example, but let's say you buy a property for $100,000. You put 20% down or $20,000. You've got about $2,500 in closing costs, and you put in $9,000 for remodeling costs. So your total out of pocket is $31,500. So like I was explaining, ROI looks at both money you've put in plus the mortgage payment. So it's a little bit more complicated, but you also have to look at the mortgage payment as well. So for this specific example, your mortgage payment is going to be $381.93, assuming it's a 30-year with a fixed 4% interest rate, and that you borrowed the remaining $80,000 you put $20,000 down, so you have an $80,000 loan. So you're going to earn $12,000 total rental income for the year, $1,000 a month. And then that gives you a positive cash flow of $418.07. So $1,000 minus your mortgage payment of $381.93. So at the end of the year one, you have, let's see here. So you divide the annual return by your original out-of-pocket expenses. So your return of $5,016.84 divided by your total investment of $31,500 gives you 0.159, which is a 15.9% ROI, and that's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now, with cash on cash return, it's a little different. So like I said, it's a way to calculate cash income earned on the cash invested in a property. So if you buy a property for $1 million, you put 20,000 or 20% down, 200,000 down, you've got 20,000 in closing costs. After year one, the annual rental revenue is 120,000. Total mortgage payments are 30,000. Annual cash flow is 90,000, so 120,000 annual revenue minus your mortgage payment, and that gives you your total cash invested is 220,000. Your 200,000 down payment plus the 20,000 in closing costs. And so that gives you a 41% cash on cash return. So that basically means that in about 2 years, you'll be breaking even. You'll basically have all your money back from the cash flow of that specific property. So another term that's used on Pro Formas is called RUBS. And so what this stands for, it's an acronym. It stands for Ratio Utility Billing System. And what that is it's a method to calculate the resident's utility bill based on occupancy, apartment square footage, number of beds, or a combination of these. And so if you are buying a property where either the tenants are not currently paying utilities, or they have a shared utility bill for water or electric, whatever it might be, you can use this RUBS method to be able to recoup some of that cost or overhead for the owner of the property. Next, we're talking about vacancy rate. So there's 3 types of vacancy rates. You've got physical, economic, and market. The physical vacancy rate is just that. It's the amount of time that a unit is unrented during the past year. Economic is the total amount of rent lost when the property or unit was vacant in relation to total gross potential rent. And then market is the average vacancy rate by property type. So the national vacancy rate for America is about 7%. Pierce County's vacancy rate is about 5%. And to get these different figures, so for physical rate, for a multifamily property, what you're going to do is you multiply the number of vacant units by 100. Then you divide that number by the total number of units. So if you have an apartment building with 10 units and 2 of them have been vacant, you'd multiply 2 times 100, gives you 200, then divide that by 10. So that'd give you a 20% vacancy rate. For the economic vacancy rate, you just take the total rent lost during the vacancy period, divide that by the total potential rent that could be collected in a year. So if a property or unit has the potential to collect $1,000 a month, the gross potential rent would be 12 grand. The property was vacant for 3 weeks or for 21 days. That's 70% of a month. So 70% of the monthly rental rate of $1,000 equals $700 lost. You divide that amount by the gross potential rent. So 700 divided by 12,000 gives you a 5.8% economic vacancy rate. It's a little confusing, but all right. So if you were in person, we would have a quiz right now. Obviously, you can't do that with everybody online, but all right. So how do you write a pro forma? So there's really 3 main pieces to it. You look at your total income, you look at your total expenses, and then you break it down into all the different statistics or numbers that we just went over. And so it gives you your net operating income, and that your NOI is used in pretty much everything from that point on. So, let's see, I'm trying to get my. So kind of like Isaac was talking about earlier, you know, being able to provide quality pro formas to your clients, or at least speak educatedly on them, will allow you to, you know, hopefully retain some investor clients, which will also be looking to do multiple deals as well. So I'm gonna burn through this. We got practical exercise. Okay, so I'm going to actually minimize this. Hang on 2 seconds.
I cut Clark down to an hour, so he has to adjust his performance. Presentation, I said performance. It's kind of like a performance. That's what we'll do.
Okay, so pro forma basically is just a simple Excel spreadsheet. You've got so you put in the property type. So how many bedrooms, bathrooms, how many square feet each unit has, how many units of each floor plan you have. Then you break in your expected rent, like what it currently is making, and then you do what the projected rent is. So you would do an estimate or an analysis of the property and determine what the rent should be, if it's under rented or if it's maybe even over rented sometimes. And then from there you go down and you put in your expenses. So you'll put in everything from property insurance and property tax to utilities, mortgage payment, all that stuff. And then from there you put in your income. And so there will be multiple forms of income you can put in, such as if the property has a laundry room, obviously your rent is going to be a big chunk of the income for the property. If you have paid parking, if you're going to do a bill back, so you're going to collect you're going to recoup some costs from the utilities. All of that would be in your income section, and you've got, you know, the current numbers plus the projected numbers. So you can do, you know, if parking right now, if the owner is only charging $10 per spot and you think you can charge 50, that's going to be the spread. So you put $10 on the current column and then $50 on the projected. So that'll break down everything. It'll show you basically what your NOI is, your net operating income. It'll show you how much money the property is making minus expenses at the end of the year. From that number, my pro forma, which I really wish you guys could see, but it will also break down debt coverage ratio, gross rent multiplier, cap rate, internal rate of return, which is another number we didn't really talk about. But what that does for you as an investor is then you get a really broad picture of how this property is performing. And if whatever your target numbers are, your projected numbers, number one, if they're realistic, and how far off you are with where the seller's number or their offer currently is to where you want the property to be performing. And then also on mine, I've got included in there the mortgage payment. And so you can adjust the purchase price to be able to finagle, like so let's say you're looking at a property in Seattle and it's a 5% cap rate and you want to get it to a 6. You can adjust the purchase price to be able to make the numbers get to a 6% cap rate. So you know what to offer on that property to get the kind of return as an investor or for an investor that they're looking for.
In our recap email, can you maybe share a copy of that? Absolutely. And so, okay, so guys, you'll be able to see that in the recap email, a copy of this, and be able to see how that works. And again, to put this into perspective for you, you'll be able to run your own calculations on the property, and based off of a client saying, I'm looking for a 6 cap, a rental property with a 6 cap, you can analyze properties and determine if they fit his or her criteria, and then do your due diligence and then send it to your client, which is the value that you bring knowing this information.
And yeah, exactly. And one of the values that we're happy to provide as well is, with no obligation, we are more than happy to run comps or run pro formas on a property. Obviously we don't have enough manpower to be able to blast out 100 of them, but if you have a client that's looking seriously at a specific property and you just want us to look at the numbers, we're happy to put together an actual pro forma that you can take with you and use when you meet with them or if you make an offer.
Can I make a point along those lines? So I always say to agents, when you have a new buyer, to try and get them in touch with the lender right away so that you can work together, convert that lead into a sale. And when you have an investor, it's kind of the same with property manager. You want to partner with the servicing the client, and the investor feels like they're getting like double the service. And you can kind of defer some of this to Clark, who's more of an expertise or on this topic. So anyways, my point is, when you at least are starting out with an investor, take Clark up on that offer and ask for some pro formas on some properties, because that will really help you in impressing your client when you are able to send very professional, slick looking pro formas.
Yeah. And I'll even piggyback off of that a little, Isaac. One of the things that we're also happy to do is, if you guys are looking at a property specifically with an investor or anybody for that matter, if it's going to be a rental property specifically, obviously, we will walk the property with you and the client when they're doing their inspection. We can provide, what is our expected rental rate for that specific property, anything that I would look at as being maybe a deterrent to a potential tenant, or things that would need to be fixed as far as like capital expenses. We're happy to be as involved as you guys want us to be. And one thing that I really want to make very clear is that we are a legal brokerage. So in the state of Washington, we could buy and sell real estate for clients. However, as the owner of the company, one of the marketing tactics, I guess, that we've implemented is just that we don't. And so our brokerage is purely property management. And so if you do send a client to us needing property management assistance, and that client in a year decides to buy another property or wants to sell what they currently own, we will make sure that they get back in touch with you as the referrer of that person, of that investor, so you can still recapture them as a client. So, I like to look at this as a really close relationship where we are an ally for you guys. We can bring additional value that you may not be aware of, or be able to help sell the property if they are getting cold feet on certain issues. Obviously, I'm not going to try and force somebody into a property that's not a good property, but at the same time, there are certain ways to look at an investment as an asset versus a home as like you're going to buy it because you see where your couch is going to go, versus a apartment building. Just see that this could be a cash flow for you. So
yeah, that's a really good point. If you go into an investment property with an investor and you start talking about the paint color, they're going to know really quickly that you don't know what you're talking about, because that's not what they care about. Right. They care about the income, because that's what they're buying. When you're buying an investment property, you're buying income, you're buying a business. Yep. And when you're buying a home, you're buying a home. That's where you care about where your couch is going to go and your TV is going to go. So that distinction is very important. And yeah, that's the value that partnering with a property manager brings.
Yeah. So do you guys here in-house have any questions?
If we're looking for a quick estimate on what a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment will rent for in North Tacoma, do you have a good website for that?
Shoot it to us. We'll put together. I mean, It may not be as specific. Like I said, we'll get you a rough idea and get you what a ballpark of where it could be. But if you're needing really specific information, like if you're actually making an offer, we're happy to provide that as well. Okay. So yeah, just send us the address and the like square footage and bedroom, bathroom count. We can get all that for you.
Cool.
Yeah.
What areas do you guys serve?
Yeah. So we are from everything from North Thurston, so basically Lacey, kind of North Olympia, all the way up to Seattle, Bellevue area.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
And what does your fee vary, or is it a standard fee?
So there is a slight variance depending on how large of a portfolio the client has. So if they have, 20 units or 20 apartments or 20 single family houses that they're bringing all of them to us to manage, we can adjust our fee a little bit. But for the most part, we charge 50% for the first month. If we're doing a full lease up, meaning that it's vacant, we're going to go and do the marketing photos, get it listed online, get it shown, do the move-in inspection once we find a tenant, and then get the tenant set up on a 12-month lease. So for that section of it, we charge 50% for the first month, and then every month after it's 10%.
Awesome.
And the ongoing is just, we have in-house maintenance, so we can provide maintenance support for anything. If the sink starts leaking or the toilet backs up, like we have the capability to service all of those issues, especially if it's 2 a.m. Most landlords don't want to deal with that, or if they're a first-time landlord, they don't know that they're going to be dealing with that. And so to be able to provide that is a big asset. We also do short-term rental, like I was explaining, and we're just the point of contact. We collect the rent from the tenant. We pay all the bills if there's any utility bills or that kind of thing that need to get paid out. We try and make it as hands-off for the owner as they want to be. So yeah.
Cool. And if somebody, we'll include this in the email too, but if somebody wants to get a hold of you, whether they want to learn more about this, how to analyze properties, or if they have a lead for you, what's the best contact for you
Email,
guys?
phone number. Yeah, and we'll get all that over to you guys.
Okay, perfect. So
Yeah.
we'll include that in the recap email, everybody. Go ahead.
Sorry, if you wanted to send him that video that you wanted to show too, I can put that in the recap email too.
Okay.
Is it spreadsheet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Anybody on the Zoom call have any questions? Just feel free to unmute yourself and talk if you do. All right, I think we're good.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys taking some time to listen to me jabber. Hopefully it was helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Clark. And
Absolutely.
thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.